Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, just a heads up, Miss Anderson right down the hall is going to be bringing our ballots later because I didn't realize, I thought the voting was only digital because they have things all up all over the school. But I think we're voting for homecoming stuff and SGA today, and so I don't know. I'm going to look to try to figure out those details more, but we'll figure that out. So 2 quick things I want you to be aware of. I don't remember what the first one was. The brain is a terrible thing to waste. I can't believe I'm doing this. Never mind, let's just start talking about the stuff. I know there was something that I started to say before they cut me off with the announcements. I have no clue what it was. Oh, this is what I was going to say. Calculators. One thing to be aware of is you only have to log into the calculators when I am going to send out files from my computer, which I am going to do that today. But I'm saying that because I want you to be aware that the calculator will always work even without you having signed in. Okay? So you only have to sign in the calculator so I can send files out. But be aware, you can always use one of these calculators. Like it'll work without the hat on top. I just can't send files if the hat's not there and if you're not logged in. Okay, so there we go. All right. Quick note about tutoring before school. I realized it this morning because I thought I saw Madison getting here early, and then she didn't come up for tutoring anyways. But
now, why did you have to call me out like that? Now what?
Who else showed up to tutoring? Anybody? No. Wait. Okay. So it's not just calling out. It's that made me think about it. If you get here before 7:20. Or at 7:20 and they're not letting you in the door, shoot me a quick email because I'll see the email and I can either meet you at the side door or out front and let you in.
Sorry I didn't come. I have very important things to do.
Okay. Listen, I'm here to help y'all be successful. If you choose not to come, that's on y'all. I'm good either way. Thank you so much. Okay. This makes absolutely 0 sense. They're both SGA voting.
Who's black?
Yeah.
Who's black?
But this is the same thing.
Who?
I don't know. I'm going to look more at this later.
What dark skin?
Okay. I think they doubled up and didn't realize that they doubled up. Anyway, so if you come early, be aware of that. Email me to let me know that you're here so I can give you, or I can let you in if they're not letting you in. We're going to talk about the scoring rubric quickly before we take the understanding check and we talk about describing data. So, I want you to hear me very clearly on this. One, I'm going to show you some of the responses on an assessment from my students last year. Not this one, because I didn't give this one last year.
Where are we right?
Say again? Okay. But I want you to see how I use the rubric. I slightly changed the rubric in how I show you what I'm seeing, just so that it's more qualitative than quantitative, meaning I saw students just focus on a number instead of thinking about what that number represents, so I slightly changed the way I score it. So here's what I want us to talk about, right? These numbers are not just numbers. These numbers here are telling you, overarching, what I am seeing in your understanding, okay? And so when you see, if you see a 0 or a 0 minus, a 1 minus, a 1, 1 plus, what I am seeing is little or no evidence of conceptual understanding and or procedural fluency. So conceptual understanding is the idea of what does this thing mean and why does it work, okay? Procedural fluency is your ability to actually do the mathematical task, right? So you can have conceptual understanding without procedural fluency. You can have procedural fluency without conceptual understanding. For instance, if you can use the calculator to randomly generate numbers, but you don't know what it means, well, then you have the procedural side without the conceptual side, okay? You could know what it means to have a sample survey, but if you misapply what a sample survey is, you have the conceptual understanding without the procedural understanding. And so I want to see both of these things. And so when I use this rubric and you see that score on there, it's little or no evidence of conceptual understanding or procedural fluency. And that's important information for you, because if you thought you knew what was happening, but you don't, you need to be aware of that. And so this is to give you that feedback. And each of these things, each of these numbers and pluses or minuses mean different things, right? If you see just a plain old 1, the solution response is not valid, but there was at least some understanding of a correct response. Okay? That's an important starting point. I'll give you feedback to improve it, right? A 1 plus, the solution response is correct. So I want you to notice, even if you get the answer correct, you can still have little or no evidence of your understanding because there was no attempt at justifying the response. Regularly, you hear me ask the question, well, why is that? On my assessments, you need to tell me why you're putting the answer that you are, especially on a multiple choice answer. On a multiple choice answer, can you randomly select the right answer? Does that really tell you or me if you understand it? So I need you to tell me why you're selecting that answer. All right? So be aware of that. If you get into the 2 range, right? That's limited evidence of your conceptual understanding and or procedural fluency. And I want you to notice, if you get just a plain old 2, that doesn't mean you got it right. It's partially valid, it's partially correct, but notice that still is above this 1 plus of being correct without a justification. All right? And so I want to see your reasoning. And if you have a strong start to a response, you're looking at a 2. Right? Not just a decent start, but you're showing me that you have partial understanding, you're looking at a 2. If you see a 2 plus, right, notice that's approach or response is valid or correct, but maybe you don't give a lot of details. If you don't give me details, again, I don't see fully how well you understand it. If you see a C, right, that's telling you that there was a conceptual misunderstanding. Maybe you were correct, but the way that you were thinking about part of it was very wrong. Well, I'm going to give you a C on that to indicate where you have a conceptual misunderstanding. A P, procedural error, right? So again, that's making an error in something that you're actually doing. If you start getting into the 3s, this is a good time, right? Clear evidence of conceptual understanding and or procedural fluency. If you have clear evidence of your understanding, you're doing pretty well. Okay? Now, you want to be closer to a 3 plus than just a 3. Notice a 3 is it's valid and it's justified, but there's an error in the justification, right? A major misunderstanding in something that's a part of it, but it's not the main goal, or just a minor misunderstanding of the main concept, right? That's a 3C. If there are significant details missing, so that I don't see that you have super clear understanding, 3D. If there's a procedural error, right, revealing important misunderstanding, 3P, right? So I want you to notice that the C's, I just realized that should be a 3D plus. I'll have to fix that. But if you want to make a note here, that would be a 3D plus. Because again, it's details, right? So the C, the D, and the P is telling you what kind of error I'm seeing or that I'm missing details. The goal, I'll tell you, is really to get into the 4, not just clear evidence of your understanding, but clear, consistent, and convincing evidence of your understanding, right? If you get a 4, solution or response is valid, but the justification is just missing some small details, right? So if you make an error, you can't get to a 4, but if you're just missing some small details, then you'll be okay, all right? And so that's what I want you to be aware of. And then if you get a 4 plus, you knocked it out of the park. Solution response is completely correct, completely justified, and no errors within that. Okay? And so that's what I'm looking for, justification with your responses. I'm going to show you some examples of this in a second, but I do want to tell you this. I have a way to convert all of this, because this is more qualitative than it's quantitative, but I have a way to convert all of this into your scores. I'm not going to put your grades on your assessments, because I don't want you to look at your final grade first. I want you to look at what you have mastered well and what you've struggled on, so that you can get a better understanding of those problems, of those concepts. So focus on that. Each question will have one of these scores posted on there. The thing to be aware of is the average, so you can get a higher average than this, but the average score to get 100 on an assessment is only a 4. You don't have to get a 4 plus every single time. To get 100, just like on the active collaboration, you don't have to hit a 5 on active collaboration every day to get 100, right? That means you're crushing it. But for it to get 100, the average of your scores would need to be a 4. Okay? And so again, I have a way to convert that. But I use the plus minus system to indicate strength of your responses rather than just giving the actual numerical value that would be there. So I'm going to show you some examples before I continue, or I give you a chance to ask questions. So here's an assessment that I did at the end of the year last year with my students. And so these concepts don't have to make a lot of sense, but I want you to notice, right here, there's a lot of information, but it was only a small amount that was even close to being correct. Well, this person wrote a lot, but you're missing a lot of important details. Notice I didn't just score it, and I will say this one right here, this is actually a 1 minus on y'all's rubric. This 2 is actually a 1 on your rubric. So I adjusted the rubric to make it more qualitative. But notice I didn't just score, I also gave feedback. Examine the feedback. Pay attention to what I am telling you you need to improve. Again, this 2 here, right? A decent bit of writing. But it revealed a lot of misunderstanding, so I gave feedback here. And notice I told this student when they made a conceptual error or when they're missing details. Don't use the word it. It doesn't mean anything. The best model, that's what the student meant to talk about. The best model for the data is what it is. Be clear with your language, okay? Versus this is another student. So this 3 here is the same as your 2 plus. No, 1 plus. What does the 1 plus mean?
It's correct, but there's no accepted.
It's correct, but that's it, right? Literally, up here, all I asked was, where is it? Which model would be the easiest to use to determine the rate at which the motor is turning over? There's only 3 models up here. The student had a 33% chance of getting it right. Getting it right, does that tell me a whole lot that they understand why that's right? No. That's why I got a 3. You got to give me more than just that. They wrote a square root here to tell me the operation. Did they justify the response whatsoever? Tell me why? No. I have no clue why they were thinking square root. They could have guessed that. There's only a handful of operations you could have used. So a 3 doesn't tell me much about what you understand. Okay? So this 4C right here, this would be closer to your 3 minus, no, just plain old 3. Okay? This student had a conceptual misunderstanding here because we weren't solving anything. They had a procedural error here in getting this value, right? And so I gave them a note that we're not going, if we're doing it correctly, we don't have to solve, we would only have to simplify. That's the goal of which equation we use. And so again, I'm giving you feedback to improve your understanding. This 5C right here is the same as your 4. No. Yes. Which I... Hold on, let me think for a second. It's the same as your 3 plus. That's what it is. I had a 5.5, it's the same as your 4. I would say because you can't get a 4 for y'all if you have a conceptual misunderstanding. So this would be the same as your 4 plus right here. And so notice I pointed out the conceptual misunderstanding they had. And because it was a stronger response, I didn't give a whole lot more feedback than that. They had a strong understanding, but I just pointed out quickly, hey, this is where you're making a conceptual misunderstanding. What are your questions, comments, or concerns? Okay? So, what I will say is this. During your assessments, I would have this rubric out as a reminder of what I'm expecting, because I want you to note, it's not just about getting a correct answer. What do you also have to do? You have to explain why, right? Tell me what you're thinking. Why are you putting the answer that you did? All right? And so that's so that I can give you better feedback, so I can see what you actually understand about it. Because I don't want you to get it right one time. I want you to understand it so that moving forward you don't forget it, so that you can use it in the future. Math is a subject that constantly builds on itself. So I need you to learn from your mistakes. Alright? So it's a pain in the butt at first for students, but one of the responses I regularly get from students is that they feel like they legitimately learned the math better at the end of the course as a result of them having to justify themselves. This is one of the main reasons why students said in the surveys I showed you at the beginning that they thought mathematically better at the end of the class than at the beginning. It takes practice to get better at these things, but it's all about the reason why. Okay? So it is time now for the assessment. I forgot to put a blank thing in there. So I'm just going to leave the objectives up, or the slide that says objectives. You will want the rubric out, as I said. You will want a calculator out. Alright, don't be scared. Show me what you can do. I'm going to give y'all, I think, 25, max 30 minutes. It's only a total of 7 questions. 3 of them are multiple choice. Okay? Now, please hear me very, very clearly on this. Okay? When it comes to multiple choice, can you just circle an answer? I mean, you can, but if you get it right, what is the highest score you can, highest score you can receive? If you just circle it, give me no reason why, what's the highest you can receive? A 1 plus, I believe, is that the solution is correct, but there's no justification, right? If you don't get the answer correct, right, when you just guess, you're looking at a 0 minus. So be aware of those things. Show me what you know, because I guarantee you this, there's no way that anyone should fail this, because I've heard y'all talk, I've heard you do what you need to do. If you have even remotely paid attention in class, you will know a lot of this. If you have studied, you will definitely know a lot of this.
You give us 30 minutes to do this?
Yes.
30?
Seriously? 7 questions.
I was thinking there was like
3 of those 7 questions, listen, 3 of those 7 questions are multiple choice. You have 30. Instead of complaining about it, get to work. Come on. Come on, say your name. Oh, shut up. Okay, if you have questions, let me know. I'll try to clarify things, but I think it's pretty straightforward. Oh, one thing. I forgot to say this earlier. I'm about to send out a file, and it is a part of number 3. So please note, go ahead and look at number 3. Number 3 says describe how to use a random digit table and a random number generator on a calculator to choose a sample of 12 students from a group of 99 students who expressed interest in being on a panel. Each student has a number from 1 to 99. So I just sent you a calculator file. Here are instructions, and then the next page is where you will show me on the calculator, and I'll actually collect this file as part of your evidence that you know how to use the random number generator on the calculator to generate 12 random numbers. Okay? So that's a part of number 3. So make sure you complete that. You got 30 minutes.
So remember, you always have to justify. So I'm asking you to show me that you can use the random number generator on here. But you also need to tell me about it. Okay. 'Cause what you do on the calculator is just the procedure. Tell me what you're doing. Okay.
Hey, really quickly, to clarify something. The random digit table is just for you to select 12 of the 99 people. I'm not asking you to average anything, because those would just be the identifiers of who you would end up averaging. So I'm just asking you to identify 12 different people or subjects or whatever it is. You don't have to do anything other than identify who it is.
So like you have those there. Tell me about how you did it and why, but you're not doing anything else with it. It's like if I were to give you data with those identifiers, you would use the data that goes with, or you would use the data, but I'm just asking you to identify 12 of 99. How you got them, yeah.
here for SGA ballots.
Go ahead and circle the answers, I guess, and I'll collect them now.
We'll come back through, y'all not done.
Okay. I just have to do an understand check. Go ahead and circle, and then I'll collect, and they can come back.
Hey, Mr. King.
Hey guys, we don't need to talk. We still have understanding checks out, even though I'm just saying go ahead and do the voting. Hey guys, don't just sit there on one that you're struggling with. Show me everything you know. Definitely make sure you get to the backside. Those should be some of the easier questions or quicker questions. Madison, you want a 0?
No.
All right, stop talking. And then, yeah, show me all the evidence you can that you understand how it works. Well, remember, you always want to justify and show me all the evidence that you can of how well you understand it. Look, what are you trying to talk about? That or that? So, who, I mean, I can't get the two, well, you've already got sample here. Right, so you already did the sample, what's your question? Why are you doing sample twice? You're just telling me, is it a sample survey, an observational study, or an experiment? I mean, yeah, you need to tell me why it's a. Oh, well then, you, like, there's a reason why it's a sample survey, a reason. Don't worry about how to word it, tell me why. We'll talk about how to word it later, but I can't, if I tell you how to word it, then I'm gonna give you information away that you're supposed to already know.
Well, I'm giving you information that I know.
Then tell me, just put it in what words you can. You're stressing it too much.
You're making this harder.
I mean, there's tissues right there, you want to step outside.
How much time we got left?
My plan is 6-ish more minutes, we'll see.
10? Come on.
6. I told y'all 30 minutes. That was 26 minutes ago. Y'all, hey, stop. Instead of complaining, work efficiently, show me everything you can.
you saw it next time, kid. Get that back night quickly. Yeah, it's something that's in the book for sure, we talked about it a few times. I was saying, because I don't have that word on there, you're just thinking that that's something that it could be, yes, we have covered it. Yes. No. Oh, so, I'm not asking is it a sample survey or observational study, I'm talking about what type of sampling is done here, right? There are 4 different types of sampling that we've talked about, and some of those sampling techniques will result in bias. Okay, let's say 5 more minutes based on what I'm seeing so far around. Come talk with me afterwards, or after class. If you're not quite done, we'll talk about it, but 5 more minutes in class. You've got your 12 numbers, that's it. Just, I'll select it. You don't need to do anything else. So hit escape. Don't do anything. I'll select it. Okay? You're good, just like that. No, don't do that. Explain it on here, that's a pain in the butt. Yeah, don't do something. I mean, I'll see it, but no, justify answers on paper, that's just to show me that you can't. I guess, have you done everything else on that understanding, Jay? Come on, we should know how to do number 1. No, you create a question. Create a statistical question that would require the collection of numerical data. You're not going to actually do the collection, but you create a statistical question. Yes, sir. Right. What type of sampling would that be? If you personally choose what type, I mean, it would result in bias. But I'm asking what type of sampling is it? So if you're saying that would result in bias, go ahead and note that. That's some level of understanding, but there's a type of bias for that. Or type of sampling for that. Type of sampling. Why do you know? Did you study? I don't know what you expected to happen if you don't study for my assessments.
I know that.
It's all fun playing games until the first assessment, isn't it?
I guess it. Most.
Sure, but wait, no, not that. Let's just do it here. That's why, look right here where it says on the next page, calculator page. Right? So because you already had it, I'm gonna go ahead and do this and show you. So you did that, right? So just, if you hit enter again, it does it again. I'm gonna check your thing.
All right, put all of your assessments together. I'm going to talk about a couple of things with the assessments. Okay. So, please don't forget. Madison, head up, please. Please don't forget, this is not the end of the learning journey for you. What I will say is this. I want to see your best work. This assessment should take between 30 and 35 minutes if you took the time to study. If you did it, it might take longer than that. If you want to come back during enrichment for 5 minutes, I will give you 5 more minutes to work on the assessment. Okay? You need to talk with me, I will write you a pass or email your teacher. Alright? But 5 minutes and 5 minutes alone. Alright? Trying to think of what else. That should be it. I will score this over the weekend. We'll talk about it on Monday. The other thing, this is what I wanted to say. 5 minutes of immersion. Give me what you got for now. 3, 2, thank you. The other thing to remember is this. Okay? I mentioned this before, is whatever you score on this, whatever the grade is that your final grade for this assessment? No. Do not forget that you need to learn from your mistakes, and if you improve from your mistakes before the test, and you show me that on the test, then I'll honor that. So keep that in mind, take the feedback, learn and grow from it, and don't get that upset. If you need a couple extra minutes, let me know. But also, I think that some of us need to realize that we need to study a little bit more. I'll go ahead and say this. Was there anything actually on this assessment that has not been taught or covered or was in the textbook? Thank you, Canthony, for recognizing that. There's nothing here that wasn't covered, all right? I know that we forget things, but I promise you, I'm never going to assess you on something that we don't directly cover in class, because I don't just take someone else's assessments. I create my own and I modify them each year based on what I actually cover in class. So, keep that in mind, and learn from this experience, okay? So, again, if you improve by the time we have the test, you're going to be golden in my class, all right? So grow and learn from your mistakes, become the best statistician, at least for this unit, that you can be, become the best mathematician overall that you can be. It's not about what happened yesterday or today, it's about what you do in the future. All right, so we're going to get back to the textbook. If you want to go ahead and put your scoring rubric in your notebook, I would put it behind my active collaboration rubric. And I would make sure you understand what these rubrics mean, and I would get it out every time you get an assessment back. In the textbook, I think we're somewhere around N5-7, maybe N5-8 or 9. 9 now. Page 10 now, okay. So textbook N5-10. I will say what we're actually going to start with is that supplemental sheet I gave you yesterday, Owen. That extra sheet that you had on inside your notebook. That's what we're starting with. Yes. Yes. Okay, can you see that? So we're going to get back into the textbook, but this is what we're doing right now. No, we haven't covered these ideas yet. I'm not gonna assign something we haven't covered it all yet. Okay, so this is the sheet you wanna have out with your textbook because it goes with the lesson that we are currently looking at. Okay.
I'm just trying to get out of my notebook.
You can. This is for you to learn from. You do what you gotta do. Okay. So, let's make sure that we take this time to learn and grow. Let's look at our objectives. And also, please remember, I don't think I've gotten yesterday uploaded into Schoology, but if you go in and you check the objectives, every question that I asked were based on objectives that I had in class. Statistical and non-statistical questions, categorical and numerical data,